Welcome to the Work-Life Balance Podcast. I am Kara.
And I am Maggie.
Together, we're a power real estate team with the Bajetti Partners in Nashville.
We believe that the hustle culture of today's driven entrepreneur who lives and works in Middle Tennessee
requires balance.
Insurance should never be a hurdle when purchasing a home. It's one of the most important purchases of your life and should be handled with proper care.
Whether that be your first home purchase or the next addition to your portfolio, reach out to the Sally Insurance Agency with Shelter Insurance for a free consultation so you are confident that you are protected when it matters the most.
Call Shay and Sally at 865-671-6451.
Welcome back. Today we've got Evane Stoner with us. She is a beautiful entrepreneur here in Nashville. So welcome.
Thanks for coming on. So we really just want to hear about all of your endeavors because I know that you have so many. And we met through BNI and I just really gravitated towards you. So we wanted to have you on today. So I know you kind of got started with Poppy and Peep, your chocolate company first. So if you want to tell us just a little bit about that, how you got started and how you have now a store, right?
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. I started Poppy and Peep actually from a different chocolate company. I made jewelry my whole life and sold things and created things. And right when I was graduating college, my dad called me up from a franchise show in New York, and he saw a chocolate concept, and he asked me, hey, would you want to get in the chocolate industry? And like, you sell your jewelry everywhere and craft shows and fairs and festivals. Like, we could do this together and it would be a fun experience. So we bought into, it wasn't actually a full franchise, but it was called Chocolate Moonshine. And we bought into a concept where we sold fudge in malls and kiosks. So
that's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It was a cool time. I didn't love being in the mall. We had a kiosk in Cool Springs and Opry Mills for several years. And then our supplier just wasn't really producing things to our standard and wasn't really fulfilling our orders all the way. So after a few years, we were like, we either need to get all the way out of this business and do something else or go all the way in and to create something really great. So we went to chocolate school and we learned to be chocolatiers and we took tons of courses and stuff. And
that is so fun.
What did that look like? Like, what did those classes look like? And what did it look like being in the mall? Like, you really were standing there at a kiosk like they are, like trying to hand out samples.
Yeah, no, that was us at the mall for sure for a long time. And so I just, in working with kind of taking about a year and a half off of the kiosk to try to figure out, what the school and, being in school with chocolate is really an interesting, it's interesting to say the least. I think there's a difference between chocolatiers and chocolate makers. Chocolatiers take chocolate that's already made with couverture and higher cocoa butter percentage, and they make it into confections. Chocolate makers grind and winnow and roast cacao, and that is what becomes chocolate. So we wanted to do both with Poppy and Peep. Both have some chocolate that we make what's called bean to bar, and some chocolate that has like flavorful and colorful confections like our bonbons.
So real quick, like reversing, was Dad already in the scene of like cooking and baking and doing that? Is that how he brought you kind of into that?
So both my dad and I really like to work. Okay. That's really the short and sweet of it. He owns a chimney company and several other blue collar chimney company. Let's reverse that. He owns several blue-collar industry forward companies, and he always liked to bake. And growing up, he was actually a drummer, and he couldn't afford to make client thank you gifts for everybody to go out and buy them. So he started baking them from his mother's recipes and stuff. So every Christmas he would send his baked goods to his clients and his customers and all of his
kind of fell in love with fell in love with baking.
Yeah, like around Christmas. It was like Christmas baking. Then Mark comes out and he's baking everything.
Oh my God.
I love it.
That's how he's gifting back. So
he just saw, like you said, an entrepreneurial like idea. Was like, okay, come on aboard with me and let's go to school.
Yeah.
And then open a storefront.
So we actually got into selling the chocolate first.
Okay.
And that was in 2016. And then 2018, we were like getting sick of it. So in 2018, 2019, we went to chocolate school. And then we, after that, we found a place where we could have, it was commercial use, it was mixed use, it was the alley development in Nashville. So we found a spot that was perfect for us to kind of flip a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment into a chocolate shop. And
that's awesome.
Thank you. Together with that, we had an Airbnb next door because one of my chocolate mentors, she said, you know, if you get into the chocolate industry, start really, really small and grow from there, because that's the number one mistake people make in the chocolate game. And then the next thing was to try to offset the mortgage by somehow, some way. So we found the Airbnb that kind of helps cover the mortgage for the chocolate shop in itself.
Okay.
So that's the Airbnb next door to your chocolate shop.
Yes.
Okay. So you're cash flowing on that, which funding your chocolate shop.
Yes.
Perfect.
So that's what I wanted to ask you too. Like, how successful and how have you grown that business? Because that's definitely not something that everybody taps into. I mean, this is the first time I've ever met somebody that actually makes chocolate, has gone to chocolate school and created a real business out of it. So what does that look like, scaling that for you?
It's hard. It's one of the hardest industries you can be in. It's extremely, it's a bunch of lessons all together. And we always say we're still playing in the sandbox with it. We're still trying to test out different things and see what works, what doesn't. And we kind of went out with a big, like, let's have all these flavors and let's make all these different types of confections. And then I think as we continue to scale and grow, we kind of retreat back to like, okay, what's selling and what's not. And like over time, we'll have less and less product available because you can't really scale a business on such high volume of different options.
Right.
So is it more of like a walk in, grab a piece of chocolate, or are we doing like cakes and stuff? Or it's mostly, I mean, I looked at your Instagram, they're the darling little, I don't know what you call those.
They're the bonbons.
The bonbons. They are so, I mean, what a great gift basket, like a gift box.
Thank you.
Yeah. So fun.
Bonbons mean good in French. So it's a 2-bite chocolate thing. And bonbons are different than truffles because the water percentage. So it's a high water percentage in the piece itself, which is why you can't really go buy them at a grocery store or anything like that.
Yeah.
You're so knowledgeable about it. That's awesome.
I know.
That's just not something that you hear every day.
It's not in our wheelhouse. Like,
no.
I barely can bake a cake without burning shit or something. Or, you know, you have to have everything so specific, like the measurements. Whenever I bake with the boys, I'm like, how much flour do you, I think I put like a cup and a half. I'm like, I think you have to be very specific with baking, or it's either going to be flat or something's up.
Yeah.
So you're very meticulous then.
Yeah, even the temperature of the room, like it has to be at 64 degrees.
Oh
like
my gosh.
I'll go to University School of Nashville and teach a class on it, and like if the air conditioning isn't pumping well 30 minutes before we start, I can't really temper the chocolate. So it's always a science and things like that. The first day we opened, all the chocolate melted because of the winter sun came in. And
there's just all kinds of factors that affect it for sure. Yeah. So what does that look like growing? Like what did you start with versus where you're at now with that?
Well, the one mold that we all agreed on, the bonbon shape, was like really important. My dad and I agreed on this one shape. So we said, let's take this one shape and kind of make it with different patterns and different things throughout the year, but kind of make that a little bit of the simple part of the whole thing. Because you see a lot of other chocolate companies that do truffles and bonbons, and they have tons of shapes and stuff. But us, we just wanted to kind of stick to one. I think the difference of what we were doing when we started versus now is just kind of really understanding who our client target market is and how to work with those people, because almost I would say 70% of our business is making chocolate for other brands and other like hospitality companies and gifts and client gifts.
Okay.
It's very rare that we love when people come to the shop, but that's not our bread and butter of the whole thing, which is kind of why we're really tucked away.
Okay.
So that's it. Like where can we find you? Let's shout that out so people can go visit.
Yeah, you can shop online.
Okay.
poppyandpeep.com. And you can also go to the shop. We are open Tuesday through Saturday, 12 to 6.
Okay, and where's that located at?
It's near the fairgrounds in Nashville. It's up on a hill. It's in a pretty industrial area, but there's a new coffee shop called Matryoshka that's been really popular. It has glitter coffee and stuff, so they're our new neighbors.
We should go check it out.
We can go get a coffee and a bonbon.
Yeah, we
I
should.
like it. Sounds like the perfect day.
Right. So you said that business took you into what you're doing now, into the Airbnb world. So if you could just share how that journey has looked for you. I know because you're all over the place with all your endeavors, but your interior design is something that really catches a lot of people's eye.
Yeah, I love doing it. It's been a really fun and interesting journey. I themed our Airbnb next door to the chocolate shop. I themed it chocolate in a way, less of like a hot chocolate mug steaming out with that kind of art, and more like botanical, lithical engravings and historical artifacts. And so I really tried to help people understand where chocolate comes from and how it's made. And then in turn, a few property managers saw my work and they were like, oh, would you do this for other people? And so then I was like, yes, like let's theme it. So it was always kind of the first idea is like, how are we going to theme this place and what is it going to be like?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's the thing I've noticed. We have an Airbnb in Nashville also. And like when we bought it, it was already named the Bohemian something retreat or something. And it is very themed. And then every Airbnb that I've shown or looked at, every one of them has a cool theme. And they're very vibrant. Like, is that a Nashville thing? Or do you think that's like an Airbnb thing across the board? Because we've all stayed in Airbnbs that are just like a home. These are really fun and like, they're alive. Like, it's cool.
It's changed, I'll say that. I started the Airbnb game in 2018, 2019. That was when white walls were cool and all of the, like, no one really was competing in Airbnb world. There was like maybe 4,000 Airbnbs max. Now I think there's like 7,000 to 9,000 at least. Plus we've grown in our hotels tremendously as well. So the reason that people are theming their Airbnbs now is because they're trying to cultivate like standing out from the competition and standing out from those traditional like white walls and just casual place to be. And because the bachelorette market is how it is, that's how people are marketing towards it.
Yeah.
So,
And they're kind of like gravitated towards it. Like, okay, this looks like a cool place to party for the weekend.
Absolutely.
Like if it's grandma's house, they're not going to pick that one over like ours, which is bohemian and really fun. And like, you just feel alive and you feel cool in somebody else's space.
Yeah, and then you have all of the social media that comes out of it. I mean, you see people in front of all these walls and they're going to tag the Airbnb and then that's going to gain more traction. So it's just like a ripple effect in that way. But do you just focus on the interior design or do you also do like real estate investing yourself?
So I mostly focus on the design part of it. I am lucky enough to have friends in the Airbnb game that we're, I would say, advocates of Airbnb in general. We're at council meetings. We're making sure that when like the government is trying to shut us down, like we're advocating for people like me who really rely on Airbnb to cover the mortgage and help the chocolate shop. Like I still really miss like back in 2018, I would say there was a lot more people who were individual owners versus now most people are paying somebody between 18 and 20% to manage their Airbnb. And there's just a bunch of property management conglomerates that are taking over, and they have come in the more recent years to town to really change that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask you too, is like, what is the way that you get your name out there to maybe take on more projects? Do you focus on those property management companies and just going to them directly and like pitching yourself to them, or how does that work? Or has it really just been like a butterfly effect for you, just getting your name out there, people seeing your work, and then they just like you? Or do you actually like go put yourself out there?
I'm fortunate in a way that I haven't really had to like throw myself out there and like try to like cold pitch myself. I am close with people in the property, like a couple of people I know really well are in the property managers for Airbnbs. And then one of my best friends she helps people get permits for the city. So a lot of her clients are needing an Airbnb permit quicker than you can get one at Codes. And so she comes in with her concierge service, and she makes sure that that person kind of gets a soup to nuts situation with their permits to happen. So that's
fantastic.
A good lead for me as well.
Yeah, you're jumping hurdles, getting the fire department in there and all those other things. So that's a great service that she provides, especially for, as you know, I mean, a lot of people that are buying these Airbnbs aren't local.
Right.
They're across the country, mostly in California.
Right. Yeah.
But you rely heavily on the property management company. And for us, it was like having them jump through those hoops for us and passing out the flyers and making sure the whole neighborhood approved, you know, all the little things. So, gosh, the concierge service is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I would have known about that when I was jumping in a few years ago.
That was actually something else I wanted to bring up and ask you, is you're in that realm more than a lot of other people are. So what are some of the misconceptions that you see that maybe just like the regular consumer thinks about Airbnbs, but it's not as easy to get them as everybody thinks? So what do you think about that?
I would say that it depends on where the misconceptions strewed around greatly, because every city and county kind of has a different method to their madness. Some counties and cities you can know and tell they don't really have much restriction on them. Some, like Nashville, have quite a bit of restriction. I think really in an investor in real estate investment, finding the real estate agent who understands where the zoning is, what the parcel is, what all of those factors, and like what you really can and cannot do, and knowing that up and down, and also re-educating yourself on when the government does have more regulations and Codes does smack down on duplexes and RM20s and all these kinds of things, to just really open yourself up as an investor to make definite sure that that is going to be something that is eligible for Airbnb, and also that it's grandfathered in, because a lot of people make the mistake of, you know, buying a house or something and they don't put it in an LLC. So when they sell their property, that next person buying it can't buy it as an Airbnb. And we all know if you can sell an Airbnb, you're going to make a lot more money than if you have to sell a single home family with no permit.
Absolutely.
Right. And that LLC thing is, I mean, maybe to correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a new thing. That was the loophole that everybody kind of started doing when they shut down the Airbnbs last year, right? When they stopped doing all the permits, January 21, I think it was. People started saying, okay, I think there's a loophole, LLC, get it in LLC, you can transfer the LLC, then your permit flows with the LLC. So before that, when we bought ours in 2020, that wasn't a thing. So I mean, unless I'm wrong and I was missing it.
I agree. I mean, when we did the chocolate, when we bought it in an LLC, but it also depends on how you structure it as a business. So that's why some people historically were doing the LLC. Okay. Now, like my friend who does the permits for people, she does recommend that to people because, you know, it is kind of a transfer game. Right. Yeah.
You're right. It's like, at least double, if not 3 times what you're going to get if you're selling a single family or income producing Airbnb. I mean, we see it. We've got clients that we're trying to find Airbnbs, and there's such a demand.
And they're so hard to find, too, because it's not like you can just go on the MLS and just search Airbnb. It's not that easy. You have to go through, if you're looking in Nashville or a specific area, you have to literally comb through every single listing and make sure that it's either 1, got the LLC, or 2, zoned correctly to be able to allow one, and that's been really hard to do.
We found that Facebook short-term rental Facebook page has been super beneficial for us, even as realtors, to be able to search, because it's like, it's agents like us that have like almost like a pocket, or they've got the MLS on it, but you can just go to a one-stop shop, because you can't just you cannot MLS or like search. It's very difficult.
And I know your friend, I actually talked to her a few times. I met her at BNI when she came that day. Also, I believe you connected me with her. So thank you for that. But I know she's like putting together and been working hard to put together a list of the Airbnbs that are actually out there. But that cannot be easy because they just come and go so quick. Yeah. Like you would have to be updating that list every single day, if not every few hours, because just stuff does not sit very long once people catch wind of it. So,
and also the fact of like some people, they are going to Airbnb their house when they go away for the summer to Spain or something, versus, oh no, this is a non-owner occupied permit that we're trying to obtain. Right. So just understanding where the client what the client's real use is for it.
Yeah, and follow the rules, because Metro catches you. It's like a big deal. They pull that permit for a year.
Yeah.
And they stalk your Instagram. So like if you're buying an owner occupied and renting it as a short term, they're like watching you. Metro's on top of it. Yeah. I tell my clients, like, you can do what you want after we close escrow, but realize you got eyes on you, so just be smart about your choices. So
I think that's just about educating people and going back to making sure people know what they're actually getting into, because it's not that easy. But I do want to know a little bit about that. Does she like expedite that process for them essentially by just like putting the permits up front?
She knows the whole system, and so she it flows pretty easily once you have all these documents that she needs. She's got a great connections with Metro codes and the people who work there, just because she's been doing this for a long time. So she's very familiar with it, and they're familiar with her ability to produce all the documents at once, versus someone coming in willy-nilly. They're probably going to go there 3 or 4 times till they get it right.
Right, for sure. Just having that laid out and step-by-step process. Yeah. Speaking of connections, though, we know that you are involved in a bunch of organizations, so we want to talk about, I know you're in BNI and also EO, so I want to talk just a little bit about that and what benefits that you've seen personally come out of those organizations that you're in.
Yeah, I think over the last few years, like I've tried to work through like networking, and I think it's been cool to watch Nashville grow. I'm from Murfreesboro originally, so just seeing our city change and stuff. I've lived in Nashville for like the last 10 years, but it's not been until the last last 24 months that I've really taken my businesses a lot more seriously. And through that, I got into BNI. My dad was a member of a chapter for like 15 years. And, BNI is like a great thing for a lot of salespeople who are trying to expand their network and understand their referral partners and things like that. With Entrepreneur Organization, EO, they have a program called EO Catalyst, and that's for businesses under $1 million, grossing $250,000 or more in revenue. And so Catalyst kind of helps you to grow your business to $1 million. And so it's very similar to a master's degree in trying to do all the work. So there's a lot of step-by-step work that we have to work through each week, and we meet each month. And so it's been interesting just because EO is, businesses who are pretty established at the $1 million mark and more. And, BNI is like kind of for the person who's like working towards like building their network and building their sales and that kind of thing, versus EO is I would say it's taken pretty seriously. And, like if you're late for 1 minute to forum, it's $100, and you can miss one time every 6 months. So the conversations are looking a lot different, and we try not to waste people's time. And it's really helped me to develop like a lot of the understanding of like, even for me in Airbnb and in that world, my core customer is the real estate investor, but the primary user is the property manager. And then the secondary user is the Airbnb guest itself. So I have to try to take my business in thinking through all three of those types of people, because they're all very different. They all have a slightly different motivation to it. And so I think things like those lessons have been obtained from me in classes like I've taken with Entrepreneur Organization.
Right.
I'm just curious about, because I have looked into the EO. We had another gal on that she's been in there. She's actually one of their, I think,
like board members or something.
Like she's a big, she's been in it for a long time, and she spoke nothing but highly about it. So I've been researching it a little bit, and I'm just curious, like, you've been in it for 2 years? What did you say?
I've taken Catalyst, which is the program that helps set you up to become into EO.
Okay. So that's kind of, I think, did she call that the young professional?
Yeah.
Is it called like for the younger age group, not the 40 over? Something like that. I think
there's like different tiers to it, right? Is Catalyst like the lowest tier that you can be, or is there one lower than that too for people that are just starting their businesses?
Entrepreneur Center has launch program that's different. Like EO as the organization has EO as it is, and then EO Catalyst. And there are a lot of businesses in EO Catalyst that are still grossing over $1 million, but it's the learning aspect of Catalyst that people really want to have. So my dad, he's an EO, and I think I almost wish he would have done Catalyst, because I think what he's missing in EO is kind of some of the things that I'm getting to learn in Catalyst. So they're just a little bit structured a little bit differently too.
Right. I'm curious if you've seen a change in your business.
For sure.
Okay. Like, say like you started with X amount gross. Have you seen that slowly increasing to make it worth it? Yeah, I get you're learning the business background, which I think is priceless. But are you actually seeing results?
Yes, I did Catalyst last year under Poppy and Peep Chocolate, and this year I'm doing it under Eben Stoner Interiors. Okay. So my interiors business is service-based, and my chocolate company is product-based. And so doing those two has really opened my eyes to a different world. Now, I could have taken that further and done one more business that would be like a SaaS company, which is, that's another kind of realm into the same type of learning. But I think with EO, it makes a lot of sense to be in conversation with people who are going through similar hardships in their business that your friends can't really relate to, your family can't relate to. Being an entrepreneur is not for the lighthearted or the weak, so you've really got to have that kind of community, and it's not really networky. It's very, it's very personal. It gets you really rooted to why you're doing your business, and really meeting with those people we have a confidential conversation once a month called Forum. And we use the method of Gestalt, which is, this, we talked about this, but yeah, so it's really helpful with the experience shares and just being able to talk through that and understand how different people's businesses work. And you have to, in our forum at least, when we start to speak on each of our businesses, we say, this is my revenue for the month and it's X, So for me, I like the accountability to be able to be in the room and say, my revenue is 20,000 this month or whatever. So that helps me to continue to move the needle. And when it's zero, you get to talk about why the hell it was zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes you oh shit, I don't want to go and say zero this month. I better kick ass and get it up to 30 or 40 or whatever it might be. That's good.
So really at its core, it helps you set up the systems in place in your business to be able to grow.
Yeah, for sure. If you do the work.
Absolutely.
It's in Catalyst. I can definitely say Catalyst does that for people.
Whereas BNI is more relationship based, networking, trying to just get your name out there. But EO really makes you self-reflect on what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how to make it better.
Yeah. BNI made me get my pitch. I'm still working on it, but helped me get a pitch better and public speaking kind of stuff, and like legitimizing things under like meeting my bookkeeper, things like that, versus EO isn't really, we're not really networking that much with each other. You absolutely can and should, but that's not the core of why we're all in the room.
Right.
For sure. Well, that's awesome. I mean, there's just all kinds of organizations out there, and it's always good to learn about them and just see how they can help. But we also do want to talk a little bit about your personal gigs that you've got going on. We know that you're about to be in a boxing match for charity, so we want to talk about that. And I know that's probably made you have like more of a personal reflection too, because that's not an easy sport to be a part of.
Yeah. Well, I made arts and crafts like my whole life. I didn't do sports growing up that much. Didn't make a lot of the teams. And I was about 25, and I was very tired all the time. And so I started to like learn what working out would be like, and like what being in the gym would be like. And I signed up for this like boxing class that I had known the instructor of from a previous gym. And so I just went and signed up on ClassPass, and that I took my first boxing class there. And it's been a really interesting journey. Like, I think fitness boxing is a lot different than actually getting in the ring and punching people. And I kind of really wanted to bridge that gap of like, well, what's the next step for me, you know, and how can I get a fight, and how could I, you know, take it to the next level if I wanted to. And boxing is not easy to get into. It's not easy to get into a fight, like real style boxing, you know. Everyone can go and take Rumble, which I love, but it's also different when you're like in that boxing gym and in that culture. It's just, you've got to really want it, and you've got to show up there all the time and just know that you're dedicated to it. So I really wanted to do that, and I emailed in and I said, hey, can I be a part of Rumble on the Row? I went last year. My friend, she backed out at the last second, so I stood in heels and a dress for 3 hours by myself and watched this boxing match. And I just really wanted it. And a few months ago, I emailed in to the organization, and I said, I really want to be a part of this. And they said, you know, thank you for your interest, but, you know, maybe 2024, 2025. And I, you know, continued my life and didn't really work out at that time, was just like extremely bummed. And then December 5th, they called me and they said, someone got injured and you're up. So
wow.
I want to take it seriously.
Ready or not.
Time to put on your workout clothes and hit the fucking gym. Oh my gosh.
So it has been nonstop since
training.
Then. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's been a huge undertaking, but you know, I'm excited, and I feel like so honored that I get to like support a children's charity that actually helped me as a child, and that actually works with people in Tennessee and is just giving and giving and giving back to the community. And we all of the fighters get to choose their charity of their choice. And I just love that for each person. Some people have been in the military and they're doing the Semper Fi fund and that kind of thing. So it'll be a really good.
That's awesome.
Is that something that's going to be open to the public to go, and like the money that you pay to go see you box is the charity money, or whoever wins gets?
So each person has to raise at least $15,000 to be a part of the event. Okay. I'd love to raise, 75 to 100. At least I'd like to raise 50. So in that you can buy, like, there's standing tickets right now. They're 154 online. There's about 20 left for the whole fight. And then there's also,
we should.
Yeah. There's also one sponsorship table left for the whole event. It's Reba's tour manager against Chris Young's sister is one of the main fights.
Oh my God.
So it's...
Well, where's this going to be held at?
It's at the factory in Franklin at Liberty Hall.
Yeah.
Let's go. We'll buy
All
our
right, you just sold
today.
2 tickets
Yeah,
today.
Okay,
you did it. Yeah, we're gonna go for sure.
Maybe we'll just buy a table and then we'll talk about that after the podcast.
We'll talk about it.
But if you want to support her after this,
buy a
hop on
ticket.
and buy tickets.
Go see your fight.
That's exciting. I'm
exciting.
excited for you. You know you're gonna kick her ass.
I'm working on it.
You're gonna do it.
I hope so. I'm excited. I want to go and see you kick some ass for real.
Protect that pretty face.
Yeah,
I don't need your
seriously,
nose
yeah.
like. So, I mean, we went through, you've got some amazing, exciting adventures and entrepreneurial, great, beautiful things. So how do you wrap it all up and balance your life with, you know, the chocolate shop and the Airbnbs and obviously your boxing? And I mean, do you got this figured out? Or are you still trying to work in progress?
Do you have any tips? Please, some tips.
I mean, I try to take it one day at a time. I think I was in therapy yesterday, just literally asking my therapist, like, how do I have a better relationship with rest? You know, just the concept of it in general. So, and not getting burnt out and how to, you know the warning signs of that and what that can look like. And so I think that I'm definitely still trying to figure out what that looks like. And, you know, I kind of had the mentality before of like, I don't have any kids, so I can have 4 businesses because people have 4 kids, you know, and it doesn't really work like that. Yeah. But it is like something that I'm still just like working towards figuring that out and what that really could mean for me and stuff. So just always learning.
Yeah, because we've talked about that. Burnout is actually a real thing. And I mean, you start going, I mean, your mind gets going so many different directions and it's all exciting and good stuff. But then you're like, yeah, you're losing sleep. You're losing out on friend time. You're putting all your energy into businesses and you're forgetting like there are core factors that you have to focus on too. And one being your health, your well-being and your happiness. So just stay true to that. We talk about it all the time because she's young and eager and I don't want to see her burn out either. So it's like knowing those signs.
Yeah. And like also like understanding decision fatigue. You know, I've recognized that in both of my businesses of just like, I don't care if that mantle is black or if it's stained wood or whatever. You know, you kind of have to understand when you get burnt out on making decisions and where that lies. And is it in delegation? You know, that's a huge component to my business and structure is what can I delegate and how can I best figure out every role in the company to in turn delegate.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
So do you have any one overarching tip for us for work-life balance?
See a therapist.
Would say delegate.
See a therapist.
Delegate.
Yeah.
Would be my thing. I mean, someone can literally come over to your house and fold your laundry. Like I sometimes shamelessly or not pay someone to fold my laundry. I just don't have the time sometimes. Yeah. So, you know, I'm not ashamed in saying like, I think, and I'm also not ashamed in saying like, this person can make chocolate for 8 hours better than I can. You know, what's the best use of my time? So we hired people who work on the production and I run, you know, the focus groups and the research and development of the brand. But, you know, delegation is the key to running a lot of different businesses and figuring out what works for your company and what, you know, what drains you and what pains you. I think the best thing I've learned in EO is if it is not your unique selling proposition, outsource it. So if you aren't great at numbers, outsource it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. You've got so much going on, and you're such an inspiration for so many reasons. And we definitely took some stuff from you today.
Yeah,
and thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, best of luck with all your stuff. I mean, that's amazing. Keep shooting for the stars, girlfriend. And we'll be there ringside.
Yeah,
we're going to go for sure. We're going to buy our tickets today.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yes, everybody go follow Evan on Instagram. She has Poppy and Peep Chocolate, Evan Stoner Interiors, and you have another page too, right?
Evan Stoner Photography. I can photograph your wedding.
Wow.
See, another thing she's got going on. So yes, thanks so much for coming on. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll see you next week.
See you next time. Thanks.